Hi, my name is Meg and today I'm going to do a pumpkin for you on Illustrator. I'm going to start with a nice background, which I'll do in a nice eerie dark blue, so maybe a bit darker. I'll probably adjust as I go along. That's how it usually works. Now, I want to make a house. I'm just going to fill in the big shapes first. That should be about right. It's on an angle, so I'm just going to sort of play with the perspective. I've got a drawing that I did earlier this evening to the side here, so I'm referring back to it. You can just put place your item underneath your layers when you're working in Illustrator, but today I'm just sort of freehanding. Okay, so what I'm making here is a sort of a spooky veranda that I'm going to put my pumpkin onto. Okay, that should work. I did all the perspective on the drawing and I can't be bothered doing it again here. Let's be honest. In any case, I want this to be sort of a light, fun sort of drawing, a bit spooky. Okay, so that's part of my veranda. So what I'm doing is using the small pointer to adjust the sides. So you take each of your vertices, each vertex, and just drag them around to where you want them to go. Okay, if you haven't used Illustrator before, the big arrow is for the big shape. If you want to move it or change color, the little arrow is more about the vertices. That's the easiest way to remember it anyway. Okay, so I'm going to change the color on that one, make it a bit darker. It's going to be away from the light sources. Now I just need the veranda rail, but I want it to look a bit beaten up. So I'm just going to make it a little bit lopsided. I might add another side to that too. So we'll go to that big arrow we were just talking about. I'm going to copy and paste. There we go, shrink it in a bit. Now I'm going to turn it into the same color as everything else, and ta-da! I've got two sides. Okay, so I can start doing the pumpkin and then just add details, or I can add the details now. It's honestly easy to do it now. Okay, so because I'm doing boards, instead of making each board, I'm going to actually make the division between the boards. So I'm going to need a black in there. Okay, so I'm onto the big arrow so that I can resize easily-ish. You know what, I'm going to have to play, because of the perspective, I'm going to have to play around a bit, and I want it to look a bit beaten up as well. Okay, so Control plus enlarges and Control minus shrinks it again. Okay, looking by eye, that's not quite right. Right, click off and click on. Control C, Control V. Okay, so now I'm going to have to tilt this one down a little bit. Not too much. Somewhere about there, and bring that in. Okay, that's probably enough for my purposes at the moment. So I'm going to have to think about where the light sources are, but I want the light sources from the pumpkin, from the eyes and the mouth of the pumpkin to really stand out. So what I'm going to do now is just start the pumpkin and build up some shadows around it, and then I might add another light source and see how they interact, or I might not, I might just keep it simple. I'm actually going to use this picture mostly for my cartooning course as an example, so I don't want to make it too complex because it seems too far out of reach. Okay, so pumpkin's going to be a round object, so I'm going to start with an ellipse, which is basically a squashed circle if you're not familiar. Okay, so orange. Now, obviously it's going to be under shadow at some point, so Okay, now I wanted to have more of a pumpkin shape. So a quick way you can get that lumpiness at the top of the pumpkin is to sort of add some circles, sort of flattened circles, more ellipses. So actually you want that to be a bit smaller at the back. So we'll go one there, Control C, Control V. I'll stick another one there, and I'm just going to expand that down a bit. Too much? Okay. So these little levers control the angle of the shape, the side of the shape. So it controls the angle in between this vertex, I keep wanting to call them vertices, between this vertex and that vertex. Okay, so in two ways. One is the angle that it sits at, okay? The other is the length of this handle. So the more I lengthen the handle, the more the curve will come out. Okay, whereas if I reduce the size of the handle, it reduces the curve. Okay, again I'm going to be lazy, so I'm going to click off and click back on. Control C, Control V. Now, oh, you can't see it on the screen, but I'm going to go up to Object, Transform and Reflect, and I'll give it a vertical reflection, and that will just make another one, turn it the opposite way. That can save you lots of trouble when you've constructed your objects, and it's great if you need something to be symmetrical. Okay, so that's looking good for the top. Now we need to add a bit of lumpiness at the bottom, make it all pumpkin-y. Okay, so we'll do a similar thing. I'm just going to give it a sort of squareness, something like that. That's looking good. Okay, and again, click off, and then big arrow, click on Control C, Control V, make another one, up to Object, Transform, Reflect, vertical, and there we go. There's another one. Because it's a scary pumpkin, it's probably better if it's not symmetrical, but I imagine by the time I've mucked around with it, it won't be, so I'm not too worried. It's sort of a convention to have scary things a little bit uglified. If you look through movies and things, you'll often find the bad characters have a scar or something like that. Okay, so now I've selected all of my pieces and I would like them to all come together. So I'm coming over here to Shape Modes in Pathfinder, and I'm going to select this one, and it's just going to morph them all together. Okay, nice and simple. Alright, sometimes when you do that you might want to go onto the little arrow, click onto the little arrow and just see if you've got a few too many vertices that have been added that you don't need. For example, there's one in here that we can just take out. There's another one hiding there. Sometimes you don't want to take out those, because two vertices together will give you a nice sharp angle. However, we don't need that one, so we can get rid of it, and that'll probably do for the moment. We lost a bit of curve, but I can fix that by pulling out the vertice. There we go. See, I told you that wouldn't be symmetrical before by the time I'd finished with it. Okay, so we're going to need a bit of a pumpkin stalk. Right, so I'm going to make that, because I want it to be round, what I'm going to do is make a bigger circle, and just to distinguish it and not lose it, I might colour that now. Sort of, I want a yellowy green, but fairly dark because it's in a dark place. Okay, so I'm going to go onto the big arrow, Control C, Control V. Okay, and when I put these two shapes together, what I'm looking for is to make something in the middle. I want it to be slightly thicker at the bottom, so I'm going to tilt this one, and now I'm going to select both of these and come down here, and this will cut along the lines where they overlap. So click off the object, now come back to small arrow, and then we can just erase the parts that we don't need. Actually, I might use that one again because that's pretty exactly the shape that I was looking for to go this way. That was convenient. Okay, so we'll put that in there. and I'll muck around with him in a bit. Okay, so now we've got, oops, I've managed to group them, hold on. Click off and, no, Control Shift G will ungroup them if you accidentally do that, like I do all the time. Okay, you have to bear with me, I'm self-taught at Illustrator and I probably make mistakes that trained people would just shake their head at. Okay, I'm going to add these together. Okay, so I need to click them with the large arrow again together and do the same as we did before. Okay, now I wanted to sort of have a funny sort of shape at the top and be a bit twisty, so I'm going to bring it up this way. Use something like that. Okay, something. Click off, sometimes it's easier. That might be a bit too complex. I might just take out one vertex. That looks a bit better to my eye. Okay, so now I might do a little bit of a spindly looking crazy evil bit of stalk, bit of stem coming off of it. Okay, so what I'll do is make that out of circles. I'll just do it off the page, it's easier. So we'll make some circles about the same size together. Actually, a bit too big. Of course you can, if you want them exact, Control C, Control V. Okay, now I'll select all of those and put them together. Right, now I need to cut them out. So I need to cut them out with something round. Okay, so we go back to the circle tool, but we're going to use ellipses this time. Okay, maybe not quite that round. Okay, so if I get that to hit at this little corner, then it's going to go down, and then we do the opposite here and come up. I'll see what I mean in a second. Alright, so Control C, Control V. Okay, so let's fit that one in there. Okay, it needs to go all the way to the corner. Alright, I'll come back to this one and, oh, I need to Control C. And again to the corner. And I might just copy that one because it was slightly bigger. Down a bit. Okay, so now we have to select all of those and we'll cut out again. Back to the little one and use, maybe click off, click back on, just do it bit by bit. You don't make mistakes and it's easy to follow. Okay, so it's not perfect, as you can see. When you click on it and look for the vertices, there are a lot of extra ones that we probably can do without, so we can clean it up a little bit by taking a few out. That might take out some of those rough edges and we can correct for them fairly easily. Okay, if I come in a bit closer I might get a better idea. Okay, so now it looks like we've got another extra one maybe. No, not so much, but it doesn't matter, we don't really need it. The more vertices that you have, the more you're likely to end up with sharp corners. So you can happily take every second one out and just get rid of that problem. Alright, actually that one's looking a little bit sharp. We'll take, oh, there are two there, that would be why. Okay, and I can do that here too, where it's, oh, bane of my existence, that notice. Alright, so we have a nice natural looking curve now. Okay, it's way too big. We just need to reduce it down. I'm going to reduce the size by Control minus sign. Finding words hard today. Okay, and I'll just give it a bit of a tilt up there. And sort of got a bit of a stretching into nowhere feel. Okay, and I might just add that to there so I don't have awkward shapes hanging off of it. Alright, now pumpkins have a section in here, so I might just cheat a little bit, and I'm going to put a bit of a top in there to just show that that this whole section takes off that from the viewpoint that we're in. Okay, you wouldn't be able to see it. So back to cutting it out, clicking off, small one, take out the parts we don't need. Whoop, sometimes you have to press twice. Okay, so now we've got a pumpkin on a veranda, more or less. You might call it a porch. Okay, I think I might need to add a bit more darkness in there, to be honest, so it's bugging me. Control C, Control V, and we're going to turn it from the corner. Not that much. Okay, you'll notice that now, because it's the last thing I did, it's on the top. I don't want it to be on the top. Now I've got a background here, which I can even resize a bit. I've got a background, I've got a few bits of porch in front of it. This should probably be about the second, I think, and this would be about the third thing that I've made. So the quickest way to do it is probably to go send it all the way to the back. So we'll go to the big arrow, we click off that one to deselect it, click on this one, and you won't see it here, but we go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, I find the easiest, and then Object, Arrange, Bring Forward, or you can just use the cheat key, which it'll tell you. It's the Control and the square bracket, I suppose is the word. Okay, so we can see that it's behind the pumpkin, which is just what we wanted. Okay, so let's get some pumpkin face. I want to get some character moving into this. So the eyes are going to be sort of round at the bottom, more like rounded triangles. So I'm going to start with a circle because I do want to have that roundedness. If I make it out of a square, the lines in between the vertices will naturally only be straight. I can change them, but it's a pain, so it's easier to start with a rounded object. So going to our small arrow again, I'm going to take this corner, okay, pull it down and get sort of a sunglass shape. Okay, I want it to be a bit tighter, especially in here and up here. So what I'm going to do is come down to here, okay, and right click, and I've got my menu options. I'm going to click Add Anchor Point Tool. So I'll click in here and I'll click in here. I might put another one in there just to be extra tricky, and that will give me a sharper point. So pull it and that way and pull the handle down. Okay, so the closer I get these two together, the sharper the point. You can see it's starting to look a little bit malevolent already. Pull the handle up to make it a straighter line. Okay. And pull this one down to meet it. But we're going to, there we go, give it a bit more shape. Sometimes you can get it into shape and like you add extra anchor points, and then when you've finished constructing it, you can take out the extras to just take out some of that complexity and stop those weird little corners and angles you might get. Right, that's looking good. It's completely the wrong size, so that's fine. I just have to choose whether I want the outline to be clear or yellow. I might go with black at the moment. So I have to click off it onto the big arrow tool and reduce it down. And a bit more to get my malevolent looking eye. Okay, now what I was saying before is bad characters can't be too symmetrical, but just to save some time, I'm going to copy and paste it. Okay, and I'll bring it over here and then flip it. Object, transform, reflect, vertical. Okay, from my original design drawing, I've done two things. One is make that eye a little bit bigger because of perspective, just sort of forces it a little bit, and the other is to have slightly more maniacal look. Oops, oh, I did that a lot. There we go. Maniacal look to the eye. It's hard to talk and draw at the same time. I thought if anyone could do it, it would be me. Not so much. Okay, so there we go. Eyes. Now we need a nose. So this is where I do triangles. This one can be straight. So come and select with the right click a rectangle, but we're actually going to make a square. You can use you can put the shift down and that'll keep it into being a square or a perfect circle, by the way. Right, so if you want to make a rectangle, just pull it to the right size, but if you want a square, press down shift. Right, so we only actually have vertices in these corners. I'll show you that by doing this. Okay, so there are only 4. So what we need to make a triangle is to have a dot here above that. Now if you have to measure it accurately, this is the way to do it. So come back to the big triangle, to the big pointer, sorry, Control C, Control V. Okay, and that will help give you a guide where that middle point is. Okay, if you press both of them, it will tell you. So the one on the left needs to come a tiny bit. Oh, it doesn't want to move away from its brother. There we go. Just there. Okay, so that's exactly that point there, according to the middle point. So what I'm going to do now is select the bottom one and add a vertice just there. And now I can come back and take away my guide square, and I should have, ta-da, a new vertice there. Now I don't need the other two on either side of it, so I can take those away. Ta-da! Right, done. Triangle. That's getting mean. Don't want him to look too goofy, so if we have too big a nose, he won't look malevolent. Also, skulls don't have big noses, so to speak. So it sort of looks meaner by having a smaller nose. Just wondering whether I change the perspective a little bit. Yeah, not so sure that looks better. Might Control Z that one. Alright, the next bit's going to be trickier. It's the mouth. So the mouth has to be a big maniacal smile, but it's also going to have the jagged teeth. So I need to start with circles to give it a bit of a guideline. So first things first, again, it's not the size, it's the shape that matters. It sounds like a t-shirt. Okay, Control C, Control V. I'm just going to make this as a guide. So I want it to be wider in the middle. So that's probably going to be pretty good. Right, so cut, click off, little arrow, get rid of the bits we don't need. Okay, now this bit, these corners could be a little bit wider. So what I might do is add another anchor point, vertex in there, and just give it a little bit more corner. Oops. It's never something you want to hear on a video, is it? Oops. Okay, see how that goes. Alrighty, so now we need to basically cut it out. It's if only we had a triangle shape that we could do that with. Oh, what? There's one there. Okay, let's make him a different color because he's just going to be used to construct something. So blue is good. Right, now let's do the top teeth. So we're going to cut it out and put him on a bit of an angle. That's why having a design drawing to start with is a really good plan. Alright, because we're forcing the perspective, we're just going to widen each tooth from the anchor point or the vertex on the right hand side. Okay, so things get bigger the closer they are to you. So this one, the whole thing will be bigger. If I want to enlarge something consistently across the whole thing, I need to press down Shift. Okay, so bring that in a bit more. Okay, I don't want to cut too much out. That looks good. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I get something in there that's either exactly sharp or a little bit blunted, like somebody chopped it with a knife. Not too perfect. I might go with super sharp for the moment. Okay, Control C, Control V. Probably didn't need to do the Control C, but if you keep making each previous one bigger, it's probably worth it. Alright, that's one. Saves you redoing the exact same thing again and again. Okay, now because I've made this right hand side slightly longer, what I need to do now is go to Object, Transform, Reflect, Vertical. Okay, and that makes sure the longer side is on this side. Okay, what I could do is just select each of these now and then just put them straight in on a reverse, but I think I'm just going to, actually I might take that one, I think I'm just going to copy and paste them instead. Okay, so make this one a bit smaller, not that much smaller, there we go. And now Control C, Control V. Okay, again checking this angle. Okay, the blue doesn't matter, it's just going to be used to cut the other shape out. Now, I might just go a little tiny one more at the corner there, but on a sharper angle, something like that. Okay, so what I was saying is you can just, when you make something like this, just link them all together even, or make them into one object, and then you can copy and paste them. But at the moment I'm sort of liking the handheld look, so I'll go with that. I might just show you these at the moment and then we'll come back and do the bottom. So cut, small arrow, chop, 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 chop. Gotta watch out for the little tiny bits which you often end up with. Like I said, I'm self-taught. There's probably a really cool way of avoiding that. I'd be happy to know it if anyone wants to share their wisdom with me. But I've taught myself the way that makes sense to me. So now we've got those top fangs. Okay, so we'll start fresh, get a new triangle. Oh, that did not mean to do that. Okay, and now we sort of have to make the triangles fit in these spaces, pretty much. Whoops, just go straight to there. Again, making everything a different color, helpful trick, doesn't matter what the color is. Okay, so this is fitting that shape alright, but it's not getting to make that corner. So I'm just going to play around with the anchor points. Play around with the vertices. Alright, see how it comes in a little bit more here? It's a different angle. I'm actually pretty okay with that because I don't want it to look too perfect. Okay, Control C, Control V. Let's tilt him around, squish him up a bit. That's looking reasonable. Again, got to get that corner matching though. That looks better. Okay. Okay, if it gets too much of a problem, you can always just come in here and expand it. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted. Now, again, excuse me. Okay, got my cross there, but I don't have it there. So I think I'll go that way and a bit that way. And pretty much just need one more tiny one. Squish it up, turn it round. Oh, it's not too bad. Maybe a bit more. Whoops. In here. Alright. Click off. Big arrow. Capture everything. Might have to hand select by holding down Shift, and that'll pick up anything that you missed. Cut. And take away all your little helper triangles. I'm pressing Shift to add different sections. There we go. And sometimes you have to press Delete twice. Another quirk I find with Illustrator. And we've got a loose little vertex there. Alright, so we have a mouth. We're not going to know how good it is until we get it on our pumpkin. Begin a little bit there. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Alrighty, so we need a bit more texture in the background, and we need to work on shadows. Okay, I was thinking also maybe a bat in the back could be good.